Jennie Carignan, welcome.
Hello, Susan. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. General, I want to talk about NATO. You've had a lot of experience with NATO missions in Iraq, I believe, in Afghanistan and others. Canada has just, some say belatedly, agreed to a 2% of GDP target. Now it's 3.5 or more. Is that possible? Can we meet it?
What we see as we engage with Canadians at the moment is a realization that our geography does not protect us as well as it used to be. The advancement of technologies, mostly in the missile domain, we know it can reach our continent and our big urban areas at the moment. And so it is clear that the environment has changed, so we'll need to invest in our own defense, in sovereign capabilities to be able to assume our own sovereignty, especially in the Arctic, as it changes with climate and it becomes more accessible over time.
I'm going to get to that Arctic in a moment, but getting back to the fundamental changes, as you say, there was a senior lieutenant general in Latvia recently told our defense correspondent at CBC that the army we have now is not the army we need for the future. That's a pretty bold statement, and even the Prime Minister has talked about, you know, you need more recruits, you need to keep them, you have 1 in 4 seaworthy submarines, you're looking at F-35s that are delayed and expensive. It sounds as if we are not capable currently of fulfilling our NATO obligations.
So there is more work to do, that is for sure, and all of our allies are in similar positions. So with the behavior of Russia, with the behavior again of adversaries across the world, it is clear that we need different capabilities and go back to collective defense and then national defense within our own borders as well. So that requires different capabilities, and I'm just going to take one as a very good example. It's air defense capabilities. In a scenario like Afghanistan, you don't need air defense because you have air supremacy. So we divested those systems to get other capabilities that were required for that specific type of theater of operation. But the type of conflict that we see happening right now, Russia, again, China, it's large-scale conventional conflicts and requires fundamentally different equipment structures to sustain the requirements of defense as well.
But how far behind are we? I mean, we left Afghanistan 15 years ago, and we've had wars ever since. We don't have operational drones. We won't have until perhaps the early to mid-2030s. What is a priority for the defense spending that has been promised by the government for the armed forces?
So we are acquiring air defense system as we speak, for example. So short, medium, long range. So we're in the process of doing that. Long-range precision fires is another one.
You mentioned air defense systems as something we need to invest in soon. What else are we missing in the event of the scale of threats that Canada is facing right now, both in the Arctic and our allegiances and operations overseas?
So one of our main area of focus is Canada and the Arctic, the defense of Canada and the Arctic. And this is part of our defense policy. So this is definitely an area where we need to invest more.
But what is the scale of the geopolitical threat in your view?
Well, the scale, from a military perspective, it's mostly ballistic missile, cruise missile, and hypersonic missile as well, that are very, very difficult to defeat. You've only got sometimes a few minutes to react. So again, from a military perspective, coming from the West, it is more about those new technologies, along with the way they can be delivered via ships, submarines, space, or other means.
I'm curious how long you think we need as a country to be ready, to be military prepared in the Arctic to face those threats.
I think if there is one thing about the military to be ready is that it needs to be a sustained and stable preparation because if we demobilize, it takes years before you can reacquire those capabilities and then get people ready and trained to use the systems appropriately.
General, do you get a sense that the Canadian government and Canadians in general are ready to give you that sustained investment? It sounds like we need a lot more in order to be ready. We have some catching up to do. Is the will there?
My sense is that we are getting a lot of support from Canadians. It is a realization that the world is a dangerous place at the moment. It's very volatile. There are many things that we don't control, but one thing that we do control is how we get ready and prepared.
I want to ask you about one of the assets that you mentioned, the fighter jets. We have a decision to make about the F-35 program. Do you think that we should continue to invest in the U.S. F-35s beyond the 16 that we've already paid for to a maximum of 88? Is that something that you would recommend the government do?
So I think for the moment, we'll have to see what the results of the reviews are.
But you are the head of the armed forces. You must have an opinion, a trained opinion about whether or not we should stay with one type of F-35 that we've already expressed interest in, or whether two different types of jet fighters would be doable.
Well, I'm always ready to revisit what we've decided, and I'm always ready to see what the analysis is going to give me, and then, then what we propose to the government, and then it will be up to them to make the decision.
And you haven't got to that proposal yet? You're not willing to say what you're telling the government we should do?
I want to see the analysis first.
Because the cost is ballooning, as the Auditor General's report made
well,
clear.
It is. And again, this is something we don't control. Change in currency, inflation, these always play in those projects that are very long term. So again, this is a consideration as part of the decision-making process.
It's a difficult time for Ukraine. NATO may spend less time talking about Ukraine than it has in the past, in part perhaps to placate the US president. What should come out of the NATO meeting in terms of defending Ukraine?
So what is clear is that support to Ukraine is continuous, and we are looking at various means of enabling their fight. So for example, as part of our investments in defense, there is a $2 billion there that has been allocated for the support to Ukraine. So that support definitely continues. And although it is not necessarily out in the media because there's a lot going on in the world, but that support definitely is ongoing.
Tehran, of course, launched missiles at the U.S. base in Qatar this week. You have armed forces members in the Middle East broadly, some with UN, some with NATO missions. Are you adding any security measures to protect Canadians there?
So in terms of armed forces members, of course, we are always monitoring where they are and ensuring that the appropriate force protection measures are in place, that they have shelters and that they have the necessary situational awareness to make the right decisions. So this is in terms of armed forces members, but also we are working very closely with Global Affairs Canada to monitor the situation in each one of these countries in case we need to evacuate Canadians from these countries.
General, not only are you the first female head of the Canadian Armed Forces, I think it's undoubtable that you are the first avid dancer at the head of the armed forces. Flamenco, I believe, and ballroom dancing. So my question is, does your fancy footwork experience help you get around the enormous challenges you face?
Well, for me, it's a hobby. It's an opportunity to be with a group of wonderful people and have great social experience as well at the same time. But It's an activity that I have always enjoyed since I was a child. So to me, it's an opportunity to meet people and do something I like.
A little stress reliever, I imagine.
For sure, yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Susan.